As like
good. No, good. Welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. Can we please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, Pepper, we had a great year. Welcome back to the nice balmy weather out there. It seems like spring out there. Really good. First item on the agenda this evening is the superintendent's of schools. Paris.
Okay, Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome back to the 2023 part of the school year. It just seems amazing that the time has flying so fast and so quickly. We came back with just kids getting back into school. Buildings are up and running. Everyone seems pretty happy and excited for the new school year and well rested from the vacation. Just around the district, we're going to be coming to you with a budget in the coming months, coming weeks. And I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit with the board about our approach. It's going to be a little different than in the past. Sam and I have been running budget meetings with the department heads and the principals and directors, just kind of going over each item of the budget. We're also looking to take the feedback from our survey data from parents, students, and teachers, as well as conversations with principals about what things they would like to see to support their children in the budget. So the approach this year is going to be a little bit different. We're going to put a lot of those items into the presentation to the Board of Education. The original presentation will be slightly, probably above the tax cap. We are not going above the tax cap, but we want to put those items out there for you to discuss. So we're going to be looking at AIS positions in the elementary schools for math and for reading. We're going to be looking at a foreign language program in the elementary schools starting in kindergarten. We're going to be looking at increasing band to 4th grade instead of starting in 5th grade. These items are all up for discussion, as well as a few other items. We're going to be looking to enhance classroom spaces, science labs, the theater lighting in the middle school and high school, and a variety of things. Now, we can't do all of these things, but I think they need to be on the table, discussed in a public forum, and then agreed upon, and then we come with a budget that's under the cap. So I don't want you to be alarmed if you see in that first round the amount of stuff in there. Middle school sports will be in there. So, but that's the part of the process which we've talked about in terms of having a public discourse about what we want for our schools, and then pulling back and doing it in a fiscally responsible way. So I just wanted to kind of give you an update about what our approach to the budget is going to be this year, which is going to be a little different than in the past. Jillian, okay, she has the next part of that. What else? Just give you an update of the 100 Days of Learning timeline. So we've been studying the district. Yesterday we met with the survey team. We've collected 537 parent surveys, 687 high school student surveys. We're going to be putting the middle school survey out probably next week. I just need to speak to my key person there. And make sure the survey is exactly the way we want it. And then it's going to go out to the middle school students next week. We've taken about 187 teacher surveys and 90 other staff surveys and asked them questions about the district. Basically, to what degree do you feel supported, cared for, academically supported, ranging to what areas do you want us to, do you think we're really good at and do we want to continue to work towards, and what areas do we need to work on as a district. Just as an example, there's a lot of data. So like, these are all, not that far. Just this alone is just like the parent answers the 2 questions. So 530 parents, 2 questions, these are the open-ended questions. There were some that were closed multiple choice, but it's really amazing because there's a ton of data and a ton of really great comments. The challenge for the committee is about 10 of us to 15 of us in the focus group or the survey data, sorting this and kind of coming up with the general themes that are most prevalent in the district, and then reporting that back to you guys. We also have focus group data. So these are the transcripts from just the the parent focus groups. We did about 11 parent focus groups with about 57 participants. We're also running focus groups in the 3 elementary schools, and the middle school and the high school of teachers. So that's going to be another 100 or so faculty members. And then the AP capstone students are going to be running focus groups with high school and middle school students to give us more data. So we take this data, we look at the most common prevailing themes, and then we build those themes into our 5-year strategic plan. The reason I'm going ahead on my own and reading through a lot of the finance stuff is because I want to include in the budget for this year things that are reflected that our teachers, our faculty, our principals, and our parents are saying are issues that they want to kind of talk about. And so in terms of the timeline, we're a little bit behind schedule. We are analyzing the data now, but there's a few more focus groups at the high school that need to be conducted, the middle school survey, and a few middle school focus groups left. All the parent focus groups have kind of been conducted. And so the report to the board will probably not be in February. It'll probably end up being in March. But you're going to be given a comprehensive kind of report just showing the findings of how the stakeholders in this community feel about our schools. Some of it's wonderful and really talks about like some really amazing work that's been done and happiness. And some of it's pretty critical. And I think we need to be open to that, and you have to have some thick skin, because if you want to address that and make change that's positive, you have to be open to the criticism and taking that criticism and turning it into positive support for our students. So that's kind of where we are. Any questions about the 100-day study or feedback from me as terms of how this is going?
I think your last statement I appreciate. I think we celebrate our successes. We don't always look at the feedback. I appreciate that.
Well, and then just a PPS update. You want to just talk about these posters? Or?
I just want to talk about on Monday night, we're going to have our school resource officer from the 5th precinct, Officer Zanabria, with another 5th precinct officer, and they're just going to do a parent workshop on internet safety. So they said it's specifically geared towards parents who have children in 6th through 12th grade, but they invite all elementary and secondary. It's a 45-minute presentation, and then there'll be an opportunity for Q&A. It is a Zoom. We sent the flyer out to all the parents yesterday, and you can just click in the Zoom. But that's Monday, January 9th.
Yeah. Before we get to the middle school presentation, which I'm really excited to have our middle school principal here and some of the site-based team members, you want to just raise your hands if you're on that site-based team and if you're here today? Okay, thank you for coming. These are committed teachers and staff members who spend their time not only doing their jobs, but also volunteering to be part of committees to give feedback, to make changes that are productive for the kids and for the faculty in the buildings. And I just want to say I really appreciate you going above and beyond to kind of produce that. And Joe's going to present what they came up with and what they want to present to you guys in terms of an approach they want to take at the middle school. And I'm really excited for them to share that. But before I do, I just wanted to get back to the study piece of the 100-day study has really been helpful to me, because I've gotten to kind of intimately get a better understanding of Sayville from the eyes of students, staff, parents, faculty, and it's been very helpful. And I just appreciate everyone who filled out a survey and everyone who participated in the focus group, because the more information we have, the better we can use that to shape the future direction of the school. With that said, let's talk about the future of the middle school. So we can store on.
Thank you, Dr. Ferris. Good evening, everybody. I'm really excited to be here tonight. Happy New Year. But I'm really excited to talk about the work that not just, certainly not myself, but an entire team of people, and really eventually the entire middle school staff had an opportunity to kind of take a look and weigh in. We'll get to that in a little bit later, but really kind of viewing this as the foundation of where we can go. And I think, you know, in framing that, I understand wholeheartedly that none of you have ever gone and looked at a house and went in the basement and were like, man, those are amazing structural beams. Or as you're driving past new construction, like, wow, they really did a great job pouring that concrete or anything like that. But I promise you, if you try to build the house without it, you certainly have a whole host of problems. So with that, and before we get into some of the things I think, you know, that I do, and I know wholeheartedly that the faculty and staff, and really as I've learned and met so many people around the district, I know that are really just truths that exist. I do want to just say a huge thank you to the members of the middle school site-based committee that are both here. There are some that are not, As Dr. Ferris said, these are, individuals, they're teachers and their parents that give up their time, really to be part of something, to take something on, and hopefully make our school better and better than it already is. I had a conversation with Dr. Ferris earlier today, and plenty of people have called me crazy in my life. It's never been proven. However, and I said, call me crazy, but I believe we are, and we will continue to be and work toward being the best middle school on the planet. That's what we're going to do. And so to do that, you want to kind of take a look and evaluate everything, that you've got and happening. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about some just core fundamental beliefs that that I have, that I know in getting to know the middle school, but also, as I said, just really getting to know Sayville. There's things that are just true, that we really all believe. And I know for certain is that we all believe in the unique value of every single learner at Sayville Middle School. 629 students will enter our doors tomorrow. They are important, they are valued, they are loved, and it's exciting to work with people that are just welcoming and having them, excited to have them in the building. And as middle level educators, always wanting to provide them with the social and emotional needs that they have during those years of adolescent development. Middle school is a very unique time in a kid's life, without and hands down. When I tell people what I do, it's usually followed by like a blessing of some sort. You work in a middle school, right? I can't believe it. I'm a high school convert. Like I taught for years at high school. I would never go back. It is an amazing time. It is a time in kids' lives when the only thing they have in common is their age. That is just about it. Beyond that, they're so different, but they need supports. And I know that we believe in providing them that. I know that we want to challenge every student every day to achieve their potential, their individual potential. And that's something that we do and we strive for. We want to foster innovative and divergent thinking. If you've ever seen Sir Ken Robinson's talk on divergent thinking in schools and creativity, if you haven't, it'll absolutely change you, the way schools and the way you think about how schools are designed. But we want them to think out of the box. We do not want to educate a generation of blockbuster videos. We want the next generation of thinkers that are problem solvers, but they're also problem finders. What are the problems that are out there? How do I find them? And how do we solve them? We want them to be calculated and smart risk takers. If you think about anything in your life that you have that is worth having, it started with some sort of risk that you took. And how do we teach our kids that that is okay? It's okay to do that, and it's okay to fail when that happens. And finally, that we're not preparing our kids for something. I'm going to stand here as the middle school principal, and again, it goes back to maybe being crazy, but I'm going to tell you that I do not believe it is our job at the middle school to prepare kids for high school. Our job is to prepare them for anything that they're ever going to encounter. And if we do middle school really, really well, high school is going to be a breeze for them when they get there, and everything across the board will be as well. These core things, I think, are things, and I know are things, certainly at my core, but certainly the staff at Sayville Middle School, and as I said, just meeting other educators around this district, parents around this district. It's what all of us really at our core absolutely believe. So knowing that, and knowing those things, and kind of who we are and the things that we want, let's talk a little bit about some things that we'd like to see and the idea. So knowing that those are the things that you want, you certainly always want the ability to experiment with some creative ideas when it comes to scheduling, problem-based, project-based learning, the ability for a team to perhaps combine periods. I talked to a teacher this morning that was like, said something about, what if we just did math for like a day, and just that's what the team did for a day, and they did math. I know that might sound scary to some people, but if you're a math teacher, that's like the greatest thing in the world. But to combine and create those blocks of time for longer tasks, to really get in deep with something, to do a team activity, to say that, as we're getting close to maybe it's a break, whatever it might be, to say that we're going to take these periods, we're going to go to this location. It'll be sort of like a in-school, almost field trip type thing, but we're going to put those ideas together. I always wondered as a teacher, I always taught ninth period, and I always had about, I would say half of the starters of the football team were in my ninth period class. And I always wondered if they would be the same kids first period, or if it would be the same type of dynamic if I had them first. That's a cool and innovative idea to maybe, flip that world upside down and see what that would look like. So when you have those core values, you want to have the flexibility to kind of do those things and to make those things happen. When it comes to flexibility and scheduling, you want to be able to, as a scheduler, to move things and when they might take place developmentally. You might say that like a sixth grader walks in, they're 11 and they're like awake and they're ready to roll, and you want to like let's front load these guys with some of these academics, and then by the end of the day they're exhausted. Maybe that's when they should run around in phys ed. Maybe that's what developmentally makes sense for them. You want to have maybe teachers not locked into a specific grade level when it comes to scheduling. We want to say that like we really value the most important commodity that all of us have is time, and that maybe we can create a schedule, or we have the flexibility in scheduling so that we can have people that have duties for a shortened period of time. Maybe it's only a few weeks in a year that they would have a duty, and then that would free them up for the valuable planning time that they would need to really get those things and get done. Things that can be adjusted quickly to accommodate an assembly program. I know it sounds silly and simple, but I remember, you have an hour-long assembly that takes second and third period, but you also teach 7th, 8th, and 9th period. That as a teacher, that used to drive you nuts. That used to drive me crazy. Wouldn't it be great to just say we're going to make an hour-long assembly period and kind of do that and have the flexibility to do that? To again create, whether it's a team, whether it's a grade level, whether it's a school-wide level type activity that we could potentially put together, but ultimately to have the flexibility to really make that happen is something absolutely that you always want with those values. And maybe we say that like, kids need downtime, and maybe a little more than maybe, a thing for, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. It might not be the worst thing in the world that they could go outside and have some unstructured play and play some sports, put together a game, the learning that takes place in itself, or maybe when it's cold inside, to have some activities that they might be able to work on and accomplish. Whether it's maybe they want to work on schoolwork, or maybe they just need some time to kind of decompress and just sit and talk with friends. So when you have those values and you want those things, when you look at the current structure, what you're looking at now is the current middle school bell schedule. And when you take a look, so the day starts at 7:50. Sometime around 11 o'clock, kids go into this time vortex where you operate sort of like independently on a grade level, and then you come out of it around 1 o'clock, and we get back on track in what we're sort of looking at having classes at the same time. This creates a 30-minute lunch period for students and staff, but it puts our kids and it puts teachers in really a very locked schedule where they each grade. The best way I can describe this, when I started here, I could not wrap my head around that middle block of time. It took a really long time. And the best way I can describe this is essentially each grade level operates on its own independent set of bells come the end of period 4. And that makes, as a scheduler, ties your hands a lot in the things that you might want to do. So flash to September, and my colleagues and parents that are here that worked in September, the site-based committee met, and I had asked, I said, I'd really love us to take a look at the middle school, at the bell schedule this year. It's hard as a scheduler. There's things that I feel like we would love to do, and really unleash the creativity of the staff and their ideas, because I can tell you I've heard some amazing ones just even talking and starting this conversation. Can we look at it? And we left the meeting in September and said, can everyone just find 3 middle school bell schedules and bring them back to the October meeting? And I walked into the October site-based meeting, there were bell schedules everywhere, all over the table. And we took a long look at pretty much all of them. And we arrived at a really sort of quick and simple conclusion. is that none of them look like ours. They all were really, really different than what we had. And that maybe there was merit in what was happening and what all these other schedules look like. And maybe we should take a look. And we left that meeting and the committee asked Mr. Decker and I, could you put together a mock schedule, a draft of what a bell schedule would look like if we had a bell schedule that was a straight 9-period day, similar to maybe like what the high school looks like. So in November, we kind of took a look at that draft as a committee. We talked about, you know, some of the pluses, some of the drawbacks. And then in December, we talked a little bit at the middle school faculty meeting about it and what were some of those as well, which was nice because there were things that the committee hadn't really thought of that, you know, and I know again, they sound like they're simple things, but like things like the custodial staff has right now 15 minutes to clean the cafeteria in between a lunch period. They won't have that anymore. So how do we make sure that they're prepared for that? That was like something we really hadn't thought of until I was walking around and meeting with some of the staff. But as we've gone through, one of the things I've found, which has been interesting, is when you talk about you know, making a change like this, thus far has been really well received by I believe the committee and then the middle school staff. And we left that meeting in December saying that, you know, my hope was to come here in January and say that this is what comes September of next year. This is the first draft of the new middle school bell schedule for next school year, which would provide a lot of the flexibility that we talked about and that I talked about in the first part, that you know, getting back to those things that we value. And, you know, importantly, adding some time to that lunch period. We've had some conversations just in a couple of different meetings about experimenting this year with some ideas for outdoor recess and, you know, where and how and what that's going to look like. And I think that lead time between now and then, especially having spring, certainly will give us the time to do that. And I really go back to, you know, again, this being the foundation of, you know, some great things. One of the things that I've loved is, as we've talked about this at every stage, hearing from my colleagues, like the different ideas that they have are amazing. They just have, and my hope is to just kind of unleash and unlock that so that, you know, we can continue to be and make our middle school the best one on the planet. And I think this is a really great step in that direction. And really lays the groundwork for some really amazing things to come as we start building that awesome structure on top of it. So that's certainly, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
As far as schedules, did anybody mention Devonshire? What I had when I was in the junior high at the time,
yeah,
was we had a floating schedule.
Okay.
There's a certain group of kids, and you know, we could decide to go to English first period and then science the third period, but independently the student was able, you had to go to English 4 times during the week or whatever, but you had a floating schedule.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know how that, yeah, I'm curious how that works in terms of like, what if everyone wants to go to English?
it balanced
But
out.
yeah,
It
it's
balanced
interesting.
out.
At the
And
middle school, you did that?
this was in junior high.
Yeah,
It was eighth grade. It was eighth grade.
okay.
Yeah, it was cool.
That is-
Really, at a young age, it taught you how to be
Yeah, you have to make,
Yeah,
go where you're supposed to go.
and of course, like if there was a big test coming up, you know, there would be. You
Stay
know,
away from.
Yeah.
That's the fourth one.
It was cool.
Any other comments or questions?
I think this looks great.
Are you sure?
And I just want to take another moment to thank Joe and the entire site-based team. As much as this just looks like a basic schedule, actually by simplifying it and doing this, it now opens the door for them to be creative and do the things that. Thank you, site-based team and Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a couple more items for me. We met with the STA about the flag football team. I just wanted to make sure we had your blessing to move forward. We're going to have an agreement. I don't know if Peter Sand want to talk about just the basics there.
Yeah, we came up with a rate, potential rate for coaches. We still have to formalize the rate, but the discussion of moving forward the program, I think we were just excited to bring this possibility to disabled I know in certain for girls.
So before we jump into action, I just want to make sure you guys are on board with the concept and the approach and.
I did have a question, because my students in Limbrook, we talked about it, my daughters. Does the NFL stipulate that it's supposed to be in the springtime, or is that like a district?
With the first, who was Mr. Park about that too.
I believe that. I don't know if the NFL dictated that, but I know that that's when the league is, and if we want to
Gotcha.
join it, that's when it takes.
Okay, gotcha. So it's a league with other teams and.
It is, there would have to be a change in everybody's plan.
Gotcha.
It's it'll be a second 11.
Gotcha.
Program, yeah. This is for girls. For girls, yes.
And the funding, where are we getting that?
And so the funding for the equipment and the jerseys all comes from the NFL. The only thing that we would have to provide is the 7,000 ballpark salary for the coach.
And that is currently for this coming spring, so that's why it's something that hasn't been done before, it wasn't planned.
And I think they did an interest survey, and there was about 30 plus girls, maybe more. It was 32 girls who were interested in participating. And this would put some exciting games on the field in the spring that we've never seen before.
And Dr. Cox has already worked on, I'm sure, sharing of the field schedule would be not a problem, so.
Is that why it's in, I would imagine that might be why they put it this spring.
Could be weather, again, in the fall, is there availability? I don't know. I think, you know, that's a bigger question, a bigger picture for section 11.
It makes sense.
Yeah, and I also think maybe there are more girls involved in sports in the fall, and then there's lacrosse and softball, so maybe there's opportunity without taking away from other teams. But, so is everyone good with moving forward with that? Okay. Yeah. Then just a question came up from an email from about this pre-K program. Just to give you a little bit more background, and for anyone in the audience, we have 4 pre-K classes at Lincoln Avenue School currently. The state has in the past promised additional funding. We have not heard from the state yet about that funding. We're hoping to hear soon. If there's more funding, our hope would be to open 1 or 2 more sections of the pre-K. We have had a situation where we have a lottery, people apply, most people get in, but a small number of people end up on a wait list and cannot get in. And in order to make this truly a universal program, we would love it to be that anyone who wants it can have it. And if we're able to expand it with 1 or 2 sections, the idea would be that we would have it at each of the 3 elementary schools. So 2 sections at Cherry, 2 sections at Lincoln, and 2 sections at Sunrise Drive. That way, kids can attend the pre-K program and continue on in their school to all the way through 5th grade, and not have a little pre-K in one school and then go to kindergarten. If we don't get the funding, the other option is to put it in the budget, but then that would be a discussion for the board, because if we put that in the budget, then we have to take something else out of the budget to balance the budget. So again, that's just the hope would be that there's funding from the state and we can put those in place without any cost for the district.
So Dr. Ferris, do you think if we were to get that state aid and add those additional classes, do you think that would alleviate the wait list? Possibly?
Yeah, I think if we get the 2 sections, right now,
There's 74 students right now in the pre-K program.
And how many were on the wait list, do you know?
I would have to check, but I think 96. 96. So that would.
The other thing we don't know.
You have to cap it at 18.
Right, so there's a couple of factors we don't know the answer to, which is, yes, those 2 sections would definitely get rid of the wait list and then everyone could have it. However, if people know it's in their home school, will we get a larger number of people applying for it? We don't know that.
And just while we're on pre-K, because we've been getting a lot of calls through the registration office, the community will be anyone that has a child eligible for next year UPK will be sending out a letter early next week with the registration information, when you can come sign up and when the lottery will be. So that should be expected early next week.
Yeah. Any other questions on pre-K?
Okay. Just a summary. So you're going to change. You're going to have it in different schools, make it all about.
Well, if we increase the number of sections, then we will spread it out to the 3 elementary schools, 2 sections in each school.
Okay.
If we don't increase the sections, we'll still have 4 sections, and then we would decide we want to keep all 4 sections at Lincoln where it's currently operating, or would we want to put 1 section in Cherry, 1 section in Sunrise, and keep 2 in Lincoln or something. I think it should also, we could look at the population.
Does that impact busing or not?
I don't think the busing is part of it, because the children start to get time.
Also, unlike a district that has approved busing, pre-K busing is not required by law.
Right.
And so right now it's a drop off, but also it starts a little bit later. So the school gets underway, then about a little bit later, the pre-K comes in. And then they dismiss a little earlier. And that's when the parents, so we have a whole system of pickup, which would just be expanded to the other two schools. And we have scouted out the locations. Should that happen, we do have the 2 rooms at Sunrise, and we do have the 2 rooms at Perry that we would put close to the entrance and near the kindergarten center, so that the younger kids would be in the same areas.
And as far as funding from the state, I mean, is there a sunset on that or?
Last year, for the fall, there was a 3-year phase-in plan for UPK funding to increase, and that was a federal initiative that would obviously flow down from the state on the state level. The state budget, I believe, gets released a week from this Monday or Tuesday, so we'll have hopefully an initial idea if this is actually going through, because I do know that they committed, they were to commit several $100 million to the state for a 3-year additional phase-in, so we'll be building upon what we already have. Right now, on a bare bones level, our grant is $248,400 for UPK. That's what it started, and then it was expanded upon last year, and for another 2 years. That's the expectation.
So as long as they do what they said,
yeah.
So Sam, you haven't heard anything about funding a week from Monday?
Typically, the state budget is
not
released.
only about the total funding, the total package.
Yeah, because it's all incorporated within the state, the executive budget and then the legislative budget. Okay. Historically, it's the 17th, 18th of January where the state budget gets released. So that's, I think the 17th is actually a holiday. So I'm expecting probably that Tuesday or Wednesday, actually. So.
Have you heard, rumor has it that it's going to be better or the worse, or and again, nothing?
Well, I've heard 2 sided source, but I also heard that tax receipts were a little more robust than initially expected. So it is also, a new administration, a new governor. So it remains to be seen what the budget office comes out with.
Okay.
Also, the state regions always say, they have more money, they have more money. I think they want to add another $2 billion to the budget. So they want to see where that goes.
And that actually came out of the gate a lot quicker this year than in previous years. Usually it's February, March where that discussion happened. That's already happened already. So.
Any other questions about UPK? All right, Sam, do you want to give us an update on the TAN? Earlier last month, John asked us to explore the option of what would it look like if we didn't take out a TAN and if we tried to fund it through our own capital reserves, and we reached out to both Doug Spencer and also our bond counsel.
Sure. So our bond counsel, just as a refresher, is Oric. Doug Goodfriend is our partner, long-standing partner. So I did approach him a couple of times with the question and about whether or not it is feasible or legal to use our reserve funds in lieu of the tax anticipation note, which we typically take out in September or October of each year in order to not incur the interest payment, which unfortunately this year will be a lot higher due to the fact how it's tied into.
Just back up for a second. Let's say why do we need TANs?
Sure. Yeah. The way that we receive our tax payments, so to go back to the budget is approved for a certain amount. The community approves the budget for a certain amount of tax money that's levied. Once the community approves that, it's certified in August by the board, and the town of Islip, the way it's structured here at least, because we're in the Islip Township, pays out the district beginning in late December. In order for the district to pay its bills, its payroll, etc., it does need to take something called a tax anticipation note, which is basically a forward, a loan that is payable at the end of June to cover its bills. And we do pay an interest payment on that advance. Once we get the tax monies in, we do, again, as I said, pay it at the end of the school year. So the question arose, since we have reserve funds, can they be used in lieu of a tax anticipation note to therefore not have that interest expense? The short answer in a memo that was drafted by Mr. Goodfriend is no, and there is an opinion both from the state controller and also guidance from the same office that says that reserve funds are subject, that reserve fund statutes declare that the members of the governing board are trustees of the reserve fund and are subject to the duties and responsibilities imposed by law. and that any sort of payment in lieu of is considered a withdrawal of those reserve funds for the purposes that are not designated of, by that fund. So for example, if you have a workers' comp reserve fund and you use some of those monies to offset or to use that in lieu of a tax anticipation note, the controller considers it you've withdrawn from the workers' comp fund, not for the purposes of paying for a workers' comp issue or claim or whatever else, and you're using it for something else. And there are sanctions that may be imposed by the controller as well.
I can't do that.
And that's the same for any type of reserve.
Yeah, I gave a light example of some of the other reserve funds have much harsher sanctions that are associated with them.
There are a few districts on the island currently do this without naming the district. They have done it years and years without penalty.
Yes.
If we do this, it's all money anyway. I understand that. How do we get away with transfers from one account to another?
They're not reserve funds. Reserve funds are accounted for in different bank accounts.
But it's.
I can't speak for any other school district. I doubt that they have been audited in that regard by the controller. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But it is an opinion that is provided from our bond counsel. I
appreciate you doing that, but it's my opinion. There's the bond counsel, and we don't have to borrow money. We use our own. It's of course that. I expect them to say no, you can't do it. They're in business to make money. I think the board's responsibility is in business to save the community as well. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. We could save, you said, probably $350,000 by not borrowing bond counsel. But it sounds like it's maybe too late for this year, but certainly we should really explore it next year, moving forward.
In my opinion.
To consider some money.
Oh, it is.
They'll pay for the healthcare increase, they will pay for the teacher salaries.
State program that audited you?
Yeah, we've been audited a couple. I imagine DNAPI coming down says, yeah, you shouldn't have spent,
No.
spent 350. You should have spent 300.
Worked in any industry that the state audited you every year. There are significant penalties. Sam, please correct me if I'm wrong. Significant penalties. You can make a mistake maybe once. You make that same mistake the second time.
This is not a mistake. This is being done. This is being done to save the community.
Okay.
The community money. $350,000 on a tax rate. It's almost a quarter of a point, maybe an eighth of a point on a tax rate.
No,
we're under the cap. We have a cap at 1.5. By us not borrowing money and taking that $350,000, you get down to a percentage point in the possible tax increase. It just doesn't make sense to the state says you can't do this. This is the taxpayer money. This is money we're received by the taxpayer. Everyone out in that audience, including everyone at this table, who lives in Sayville, pays taxes. So it's not entirely up to me. Really, I'm giving you my strong opinion.
I would not vote for it.
Just to clarify.
I would vote for it. I'm afraid of saving money.
Just to clarify for the public. Like some of the biggest reserve funds we have are like the retirement reserve, and what others do we have?
We have the employee benefit accrued liability reserve. We have an unemployment insurance reserve, a workers comp reserve, and the retirement contribution reserve, which is split into two, the ERS and the TRS.
And in layman's terms, based on the rules and regulations of the state, you can fund these reserves for future expenses.
Correct.
But what the state is saying is you can't use those reserves temporarily
for anything but those expenses, because as the statute and the guidance document is written on a document called the Management Guide on Reserve Funds, it explicitly states that. And for example, I mean, he actually wrote this in the memo, which I'd read. In each of these reserve funds, the applicable statutes provide that monies may only be expended for the established purpose, and excess monies, if any, in some cases can be transferred to another reserve, in some cases after a public hearing, but none provide for any temporary use. In the case of the Retirement Contribution Reserve Fund or the Employee Benefit Accrued Liability Reserve Fund, it's a misdemeanor criminal offense if monies are withdrawn and expended for any other purpose.
Sam can share that memo with everybody.
Yeah. Certainly, I guess you might call it the EBLR.
The EBLR, yeah, and the Retirement Contribution Reserve.
Yeah.
Yes, the TRS, ERS reserve. However, as I mentioned at the last meeting, there is a resolution that may hit Albany that would potentially alleviate that. As to where that lands is to be determined.
You know the resolution.
It's a NISPA resolution that I know that they were passing to already.
I know, actually, I'll speak of it on Monday, because I haven't been.
Yep, I can forward that.
Yeah.
And you don't know when
And
that,
of course, this wasn't an issue for us because interest rates were very low. We had a very good rating.
Yeah.
So the cost was quite low. And now the concern is because the interest rates are higher, you have to pay a higher rate.
Yeah.
If we can get the information on that, that inflation, that would be very good information to get to the public.
Certainly, try to same. I don't join any, or avoid any type of position where we're gonna be held on the, legally held responsible. And, I think we really have to explore, twist some more.
I mean, because also the catch-22 is if you get audited and then you get this negative rating, then it impacts your interest rate. And you're paying more for snowball.
Sam, what is the
but
percentage rate? What did it go to? From and to?
We're at 0.21 last year to about 3.5.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it's still going.
It's going up. There's discussion that by the third quarter of 2023, there might be some relief, but that's total speculation from the powers that be. I mean, nobody speculated that it was going to go to this level a year ago.
And so fast.
Yeah.
Well, so, Sam, thank you for looking into that.
thanks, Sam.
It's not over yet, but I think we should continue the conversation.
Right, facilities update, Sam, you're
Better
number two.
Okay. So
Let me unplug that.
okay, so Danny Castellano, our director of facilities, give him credit for developing this and also overseeing the projects, which he aptly named the December break projects, so that's when the majority of them took place. So first and foremost, if you walk through this building this evening, you may have noticed that there was an extra layer of security over the break. The student, there were two things that happened. Student support services renovated Ms. Mackness's office to have a more functional space for the clerical administrative staff, but also to have a dedicated meeting space for administration and parent meetings as well, which we thought was absolutely necessary and critical. In addition, there is a vestibule that has been installed in the entryway of the administration building. Number one, to be on the same pace. It's contiguous with the other buildings as well, but also it is a layer of security that didn't exist there previously. People entering the administration building will not have to either use their district ID badge or granted buzzer entry by security. And again, this is similar to any of the other buildings we have in the district.
I just want to compliment Danny and his staff because they did that so quickly and it's so clean. And when we came back from break, as Kelly noted, she barely noticed it was so seamlessly put in.
There wasn't a speck of dust anywhere.
Yeah.
It looks very different over the break, I will say.
I placed an order at the window. I'm waiting for my coffee.
So at Lincoln Avenue Elementary, there was select bathrooms that were not renovated over the summer because they were recently updated over the last 5 years. So they were not deemed necessary for the gut project, quote unquote, so to speak. What we did do is we epoxied the bathroom floors to create a sanitary environment for them. They're easy to maintain and to keep clean. As if you've been through Lincoln, seen the bathrooms and you've seen the floors, you'll see the difference. So that consistency is now across the board. At the middle school, this is something that we have been in a bit of a, let's say, battle, but over the last year, if you recall, there was a vandalism incident in the locker room, and we went back and forth with our insurance company, given the scope and extent, if you remember the pictures of the damage, and we actually we scored a very nice victory. And what you see here are the new locker bays that have been installed. This is not a rendering. This is not a drawing. This is what actually exists in the middle school right now. That was installed, I would say, within the span of maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And in addition, we were able to work with the installer to have 30 additional lockers for the athletic programs as well, in addition to the student lockers. just to let everybody know, did we take away lockers that were there presently? No. I have the same amount, plus we have those additional 30. Also at the middle school, credit to the building staff and Dr. Castor, that took it upon themselves to replace the chorus room drop ceiling due to aging and deterioration. The custodial crew painted the grid and replaced all the tile with new acoustic tile. So what you see there is also what's currently in place. So that was our December break project.
Very good.
I think it's great that they added those athletic lockers. Because when the kids come in, they have their things for phys ed class, but then they also have maybe different things.
They got some lockers. They got some lockers.
We fought the insurance, and we received funding. Gay worked with the other equipment, and we got the price, and they said we can also do this for this, and it matched what we were awarded, and it's something that we've been discussing for a while because that was lacking. So it was a win-win.
And the final piece was the questions about the pool at the middle school.
Yes. Okay, so there's a few things going on with the pool. We do have, after quite a bit of work with in identifying the company, we do have a firm that is looking to can do the work with the compressor, but there have been, as I've mentioned before, issues with the surety, legal, etc. However, in my discussions with council, we are moving forward with that. The temperature of the pool most recently was a little bit cold, particularly earlier this week. There's two reasons. One, on some of the break days, the boiler has been on a low functioning level to conserve energy. So sometimes practice occurs, the building is not staffed to monitor that. So the pool level, the water is cold. In particular, earlier this week, we did have all three boilers at the middle school in alarm due to low water. There was a float on the water feed line that was stuck. It was from the condensate return tank. Once it was freed up, the boilers filled up and restarted. It was basically a low water issue. It didn't heat up the pool. So that was the reality of it. In some of the other instances where we have heard that it is cold, it's yes, practices and things are going on when the boilers are set to those levels.
I brought up the pool issue, just a few community members reached out to me. Some are people that pay, I guess, to swim in the pool. So they were concerned with the water temperature. Is there any way to possibly, do we have any smart controls on the boilers as far as like, are we able to program or like to make sure?
I think we are able to do it, but this was a bit of a fluke, this one, but what we can do is we can look at the pool schedule and just make sure either it's staffed or that the temperature is going to be at acceptable levels.
Greatly appreciated. The other concern was, obviously, we've had a long journey with the ventilator unit. My question was, as a short-term fix, while that's getting worked on, are we able to open the doors to the pool area just to vent a little bit of the I guess the air? Because the concern among the members of the community was that the air was so stagnant that it was basically, they felt it was dangerous, so they felt like they were going to pass out. And
we may be able to do it in short intervals.
Yeah.
The only problem is doing that sometimes adds additional burden on the compressor, and will is not going to work.
Gotcha.
The midterm fix is that we are looking to have the service agency order the part and do the labor. It's an expensive piece of machinery that we are going to definitely assume it's under warranty, since we have assurances from our architect and engineer that this is a manufacturer's defect and it's not the first one of its kind. So as that process plays on, yes, we can look into doing that. We'll take some monitoring and obviously working with the building custodial staff. We're also going to really get this in as soon as possible and work on in terms of the back end funding that we do not believe we are responsible for as well.
Okay, so again, I appreciate it. I guess just in when it gets particularly bad, if we could
Yes.
vent by opening the doors, it would definitely would be a huge help. Just because we get so much use out of the pool, and we have so many people and vulnerable people in the pool area.
And if they wanna also contact me directly, so I can work out with their schedule as well, then we'll work it out.
I had, on the pool topic, we spoke a couple of months ago about the handicap accessible.
Yes,
Is,
I have nothing on it yet, but once I
it's okay.
get that, yes, we got it.
Thank you.
I'm hoping by the end of the year, I can actually have something.
That is it for my report. We'll go to the board discussion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda tonight is a Board of Education discussion. We have 3 items on there right now. First one is New York State School Boards Association Capital Conference. It's actually virtual this year. So if anybody's interested in attending, please let Julie know. There is a direct date to go to Albany. I think it's on the 14th, which is pretty interesting because they're all going to be home. So I don't know why they did the lobby date in Albany on the day when there's only going to be AIDS and the days up there. So that's a capital conference.
You think they did that accidentally?
No, that wasn't them. It was actually New York State School Boards Association on the schedule. I think New York State, kind of disappointed in New York State School Boards Association how they did it on that day. And it's like they all knew about it and they kind of like, well, it's the only day we have available. Like, well, it doesn't make any sense. No one's gonna know. So if anybody's interested in the virtual, it's pretty good. Just let Julie know. With that subject, I am attending tomorrow Long Island Association business meeting tomorrow, breakfast at Crest Hall, and I think the Balloon's going to be there as well, and Blakeman from Nassau County, as well as some other dignitaries, and hopefully Napoli will be there I could ask him a question about the handball.
Sure, yeah.
Proposed resolution
Yes.
20.
Oh,
Proposed resolution number 20.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
July 24th, 22.
Claims order report.
Yeah, there were 2 items that they were quickly resolved.
seems like they were pretty.
All right, I want to do that last.
Okay.
I know a couple times this has come up in the board reports, it's up a little earlier, about responding to letters and emails. I know we've gone back and forth about the best way to do it. I know we all get emails. We all have a very busy schedule. We need to come out with just a standard response to what we receive from at least the board, or somehow to respond that they know we're actually acknowledging them and receiving them. We don't respond all the time because we all have busy schedules, but I think if we just do just a standard response from one person would be great. I can speak to Julie now, just a.
Well, I mean, I think what I'm thinking would be a good practice is, we talked about before, if it's sent to the board and the district clerk is copied in, you know, as you've been doing, you'll respond saying it's received and passed on to the board. If one of us receive an email and it's for the board, I would then send it to Julie to disseminate, and then she can also then give that same response. You know, if a board member wants us to thank you for the email, that's their prerogative, that's fine. But as long as we funnel it back through the district clerk, then we can make sure that each email would then respond.
But I think we could answer some very generic questions, like if the board is emailing asking about the event that may be happening, or if it's happening in schools, you can just say, yes, it's happening here. This is what we built.
Yeah, I think if we're presented with new information, or there's an issue that would require us to deliberate, we can't respond individually via email because we're, you know, trustees on an elected.
I think that's
board that
perfect.
has to
Deliberate. We have to deliberate about it. We can't really respond to it in a way other than just say, you know, please, the board meeting, the board will discuss it.
I mean, you can't ever speak for an entire group, and that's, it's confusing if you individually reply.
And then sometimes if there's questions about the district and it's sent to you, but I can answer it because it's like, you know, how many books are in the library, or how many math teachers do you have, or
it's based on actual
or a policy that already exists. I can certainly say on behalf of the board, this is the policy, this is the answer. And it's not that the board isn't answering, it's just that I can very quickly get the information and give it to the person. It's not about a decision that needs to be made. You can answer a question about a decision because you have to be together to decide.
Yeah, but
I
again,
think
the
people
Paul's
don't
point,
realize that. Yeah.
if we have to deliberate, we really can't respond with an answer what the question is. Okay,
Everyone comfortable with that? Yeah.
we all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda tonight is, a couple of community members have come to us, and asked us to send a letter concerning the COVID, vaccine and mask, we need to discuss, or will we do it? Personally, I have no objection to sending a letter, because it's, generic without attacking the governor, just say, listen, we're concerned about what solutions might be. As far as I know, that bill in the Senate, as well as in the Assembly, the one in the Senate's not moving because it hasn't been committee, one in the Assembly is probably not gonna move anyway either, but I have no problem sending one more letter.
I don't have problems. I think we should send a letter first. Just let them know where we stand. That's it.
If nothing's moving, I don't see any need to send it.
I mean, I kind of feel there's no urgency right now because nothing is moving. If something develops and you know, if it comes out of committee, you know, because right now our letter's just going to go in the trash. Yeah, you know.
Not to mention, for me to endorse a letter, I would need a valid survey that was board approved to tell me, I know some of the community members mentioned the survey that was done last year. That was not a board approved survey. I didn't know that survey was going on. So unless we had valid numbers, I wouldn't feel comfortable just saying, signing on to a letter saying we're against masking and vaccines.
That's not that. I believe it should be from district to district, that we should make the decision based on what is going on in our community, not if it's going on in Massapequa.
No, I think agility is important, but
that's what I think
unless we are going to staff a public health expert on site and we're going to have, a staff public health expert that has a PhD and we have medical personnel that could advise the board on what the best case is. Again, this isn't my area of expertise, so.
I believe we should write a letter stating that.
I mean, what would the letter really say? What
The letter could say that
the
what we will
proposal
do
right now.
what is best for our community. I don't want to come from the state.
So I feel like Maureen is saying not that we're going to say one way or the other, but that we would prefer to make a decision based on what's happening here. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, in a nutshell.
Well, if you look at what happens in upstate New York, there's certainly some district upstate New York, and certainly dealing with this a lot different than Sayville is dealing with this right now. And to Maureen's point, local control, but exactly how much local control you want. I have a problem with the vaccine personally. I have a problem with masks personally, but and I couldn't support putting masks on our kids. I won't support it. And I certainly won't support a mandatory vaccine for COVID for our kids, which is not a vaccine, it's a shot. And that's just my personal opinion. I think a letter going to the governor, certainly have Republican support. I don't want to talk politics right now. Certainly have a lot of Republican support for it, and those are most of our local officials.
I think it's individual.
To the point that was made last meeting is that it's not really that side of the aisle, it's the other side of the aisle, and it's the governor. So it's if the governor wants to enforce a mandate for our kids and our students, specifically the mandate vaccine before they could go into school, is something I could not support it.
If that was an issue and we had data to make a decision based on, I think it's valid. Well, right now we're not in that situation, so why?
Guys, stop that. Guys, 1 second. We're having a discussion up at this board. Just give us the respect to have us a dialogue. If you guys are going to disagree with some of the things we're going to say, we're going to disagree with some of the things. You're going to say we're trying to come to a discussion here. So can you just give us a couple of minutes, please, and we'll give you a chance to respond to our discussion. Go ahead, Mr. McCall.
No,
the fact is, you talked about data. The fact is, and let's remove it from COVID. If I have a measles vaccine and you don't, and you have measles, I'm protected. That's an individual choice. COVID will be around forever, just like the flu. That's a decision you have to make, whether you want the COVID vaccine, flu vaccine. We can be vaccinated forever. And I'm not anti-vax, please. I just want to, I believe it's an individual choice. And I definitely do not believe in taking away religious exemptions. That's my own personal feelings.
Yes.
Well, no,
No, all I want to say is, I mean, right now, I don't think there's legislation that's going anywhere for us to object to. You know, I mean, if there was, it was bona fide, you know, legislation that the governor was going to do this, then I would be more, I would advocate about it. I wouldn't want to advocate now beforehand. And not later.
We have to come to some sort of a consensus on this. I mean, this is the second meeting we're having this discussion. See, we need to do something. We're not doing something. I'm in favor of sending a letter. I understand what Tom's point. Possibly we could format a letter in the event something does happen, but if something eventually is going to happen, and
I don't think so. I don't think there's a political will to do that.
I'm with Tom. I mean, I look at it very pragmatically. I don't think there's any political will to require it, so why take action on anything? Just doesn't, to me.
And things will evolve, I think, too, like based on the knowledge I have today, in 4 weeks' time, you know, there may be more information, and I would, you know, I'd rather base it on that.
Yeah, I feel like, to me, to respond to for a letter now is, listen, we've seen increases in health problems. It is fall, but there's, you know, there's RSV and there's other things, but there's no discussion on any level about requiring a vaccine.
Not true.
Like in the state level. So to me, I don't see the urgency to take action. Format a letter in case we get to that point. Fine, but why take action when there's nothing happening?
well, it seems like we're split.
Yeah, I believe we're proactive. Kelly, what do you think? I believe in.
I also respectfully to everybody with their varying opinions. I also believe it's individual choice, and I don't think it should be mandated in the school. That's just me personally.
Well, you know what? I hate to do this, but we're short a member. I hate to think we're gonna split vote on this 3-3. I would like to have a yes or no, up and down.
You want to check to before?
Well, it's pretty
Pretty clear.
pretty clear. I
We're split.
mean, if I was playing poker, I was going to bet that it's split.
You want to make sure?
No,
Kelly,
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Maureen,
I'm in favor of the letter.
not at this time.
This time.
Not at this time.
I'm in favor of that, so we're split, so I tell you what, it's, before we take a real formal vote on it, I don't want to have a split, I don't want to have a split vote on this. I think it's the fair to Christine. I
Yeah,
don't,
she should get a say.
huh? She should
Yeah,
have a
she
say,
should have a say.
because she may, you know, she may convince the other,
And
she may
she-
convince
yeah,
me
and she
no,
may-
she may convince
Yeah, she.
the other
she
three,
may
yes,
have
no,
good
it's,
vote, too.
So we're gonna have a board meeting next week on Thursday. Would you, based on what you said, would you want me to draft something
Yes.
so you have something to look at, and then you could just decide at that board meeting with the 7th member here?
yes, I think that would be.
Is that something that we can agree on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Makes sense.
I'll draft a letter for you to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It'll be after probably be right before the budget or the state speech anyway.
And thank you too to everybody for speaking how they feel. You know, that's what we're here for, and I'm happy to work collaboratively with everyone.
And I just want to say, that, you know, this is an example of what a discussion should be. It should be out in the open. It should be in front of the public. Everyone can hear how people feel. And then you know, the process is the process.
Hold on a second, I just want to get the timer off.
Yep.
I apologize.
Well, good.
Great. I'd like to open up the public session. Will there be anyone speaking tonight? Can I see a show of hands? 1, 2. Okay, we normally set aside 30 minutes. Okay, I don't think we're gonna need 30 minutes. I'm just gonna make a brief statement if you don't mind. And I've said this a couple of meetings. The Board of Education, our administration listen carefully to what members of our community have to say. We follow regulations specified by law and policy as we encourage our community members to offer public comment at Board of Education meetings. The Board of Education requests that anyone who participates in public session demonstrates civility as they address the board and community. The Board of Education meetings are held in public view, giving the public opportunity to watch, listen, to the proceedings of the board. In these meetings, district staff updates the board of matters pertaining to the school. The board may be required to take action on matters related to the district operation. Board policy 1230 provides opportunity for a period of public comment during these meetings. With that in mind, a couple of brief words. 30 minutes, we're not going to do 30 minutes tonight unless we need to. The board reserves the right to limit public participation in any given case with the consent of the comment period is deemed necessary. Questions or comments by the public are limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers I ask identify themselves and or the group they represent. The speakers should conduct themselves in a civil manner and direct their comments to the board. The board is not permitted to have discussions involving district personnel, students, and or community matters. Well, if you wouldn't mind, can someone, the first person, please step up to the podium and start the time when you start.
Hi everybody, Chanel Ludwig. I'm a parent of 2 children in the district, in middle school and high school. I think that, first of all, the letter is not about your personal opinions, although I appreciate the personal opinions that I agree with mine, but it's about what the community would want. It's about what the community favors. And I know for a fact, you've heard from a lot of the community. The community does not favor anything other than parental consent overall. So you're not talking about science, and you're not talking about a vaccine necessarily. You're talking about parental choice. You're talking about advocating for parents to choose for their own children. Do not think those bills aren't coming. First of all they need are new numbers. Second of all, a brand new bill already went up in the Senate. It is 00624. So if you take a look at it, you're going to find it. It's already Brad Hoylman in his genius.
What was the number? I'm sorry.
00624.
00624 has already gone up. And what it is for is it's a mandate for the COVID shot for all college students. Now, if they're going to start with college students, there is nothing to stop them from hitting our younger students as well. That one has already gone up. Don't kid yourself into thinking that this isn't happening. This governor wants it. It's going to happen if she wants it. And why are we waiting until after something's already happened before you? I'm not talking to just you. We all know those 2 aren't going to sign anything. That's not a question. I'm surprised by you, but that's different. But do not think they're not coming after our children. And why are we waiting until after something happens? We always do this. We wait until after something happens, then we scramble to try to throw something together, and then it makes no difference at all. There are other districts that are taking a stand, and they are talking about supporting their communities, supporting their parents to choose for their own children. Why can't you write a letter and sign your damn name to it, saying that you support parents deciding for their own children? It's not about your personal opinion. You don't need a science person to come in here and tell you what the CDC has already told you it doesn't work and that children don't need it. So why not let a parent decide for their children? That's what you'd be signing off on. The bills are coming. They've already started. They just need new numbers. Speak to your legislators. They're going to tell you that. Don't be foolish and don't wait on supporting your community and supporting our children.
Thank you.
Pat Delaney, I have one son in the district. I think she stole my thunder, but the question I have is, I think it was June of last year or the year before. The board wrote a letter to Governor Cuomo asking to basically, I'll term it, police themselves. And I think that's what you were saying. No, you don't have to write a letter stating what you want to do with vaccines or masks. You want to just make the decision on your own. We vote for you. So if we put you in this position, we're putting you there because we want you to follow our needs, really. So if the community sends in a survey, an official one, or a non-official one, and says 78% of the community does not want masks and will not send their children to school if they're going to be vaccinated, that's the way we want you guys to proceed. I mean, I think that's the way we vote for a person who's going to kind of think like we do. So if that person doesn't, then they need to be voted out. Really. Second thing is, I don't know, I'm not really up on the topic. I've been at it for a little while. Is New York State mandated critical race theory to be put into schools yet? Okay.
We do not.
Has there been discussion about it?
No.
It has. Okay. I just had that question. And yeah, I don't know why we would wait to X to be allowed to just make our own decisions, really. We would rather have you guys make the decisions than somebody up in New York State who's, has different agendas and ideologies and, stuff like that, their priorities. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we had three hands go up with one more person or we. Okay, thanks so much. Thank you everybody for your input. Next item on the agenda is minutes. Approval minutes for December 8th, 6/1. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion,
Second? We had two.
Carl and I.
All right, discussion? Those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Without objection, I don't see anything on here that, could I call 7/1 to 8/1?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, upcoming dates. January 11th, middle school winter concert, 7 p.m. January 12th is our Board of Education at the middle school.
Yes.
Middle school. And
Old junior high school.
Old junior high school.
Okay, got me confused
The
there.
building right over there.
Okay, and I need a motion to go to executive session. We need to continue our discussion, leading to appointment of a particular persons or persons in discussion of education program regarding a particular student. Motion, please.
Motion.
Discussion? No, all those in favor? All right, we're gonna take a 8-minute, well, I'm gonna go to 10-2, which is about 8 minutes, right? Which is gonna go to 15 minutes or 20 minutes anyway, so it doesn't matter.